Nah, I don't think it's necessary.
They're asking then if you could make an
Good morning.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to all of you, especially who are watching on Zoom. I'm Rabbi Leader. It's an honor for me to be here this morning to help walk these first few difficult steps with this beautiful family. Before we begin, just a reminder for everyone, please take a look at your phones, even if you're sure they're off, and please check one more time and make sure that you really turn your phone completely off. In just a moment, we're going to begin by reading the 23rd Psalm. And that's a psalm, whether you realize it or not, you already know. It's the one that starts, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Just share. Yeah. This psalm is read almost universally at Jewish funerals, and part of the reason is obvious, because it talks about death as a beautiful, eternal existence, like lying in green pastures beside a beautiful, still lake. But there's much more to it than that. There's a verse in this psalm, there's a verse in this psalm, in this poem, which says, and you know it, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me." And I want to make 2 points about that verse. The first, the poet reminds us we walk through this valley of the shadow of death. We don't dwell in it forever. It's a promise. It's a promise that somehow all of us, not because we're extraordinary human beings, but because we are ordinary human beings who have this ability to move forward from darkness back into the light. And the deepest, most nuanced message in this psalm is the whole idea of a metaphor for death, of a valley of shadows. Because if you think deeply about a shadow, no matter how long, no matter how dark, it's actually proof that the light is still shining. Because you can't have a shadow without light. The light is obstructed. It's obstructed by terrible grief and shock and dismay and sadness. But all of that is really a reflection of a very profound love that still shines. That's faith, and that's hope. So let's read together on the top of page 14. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. I know it's impossible to believe, and yet here we are, facing a loss we expected not to face for decades. I asked myself, what would Mark say about that? What would he say about dying of a sudden heart attack? We already know, because he said it himself. It was the way he wanted to die. And here's why I think he felt that way. Because that is the way a person can really live until the moment he or she dies. When death comes swiftly, you are fully alive and embracing and enjoying and appreciating life and love until that very last second. Rather than some long, terrible, painful, slow decline. It's perfect. Mark appreciated every moment in that moment. And that's what mattered to him, to be and to enjoy and to love each single moment with you, with the people he really, truly loved. So Mark would understand all the sadness today, the shock, and the grief of it all. But I think he'd also remind you that there is a big, beautiful family all around you right now. And they'll hold you, and you'll hold them. And that there's a big, beautiful world full of people to meet and charm and embrace and be out there with while they embrace you back and give your life meaning. he would remind you that you already have everything you need of his soul. It's within you. It will keep you feeling safe and happy and loved. And he would tell you, you will go out into the world again to feel all of those things and to help others feel them too. And he would ask you to honor his life by living and loving your life. The love in Mark's life, and I've been on the inside of many, many lives, the love in his life was very profound. It started as that little boy, that gute Neshama, who was raised and loved by his parents, by you, Marilyn and David, and who filled that family with love and with light. Now, while it's true, as they say in Yiddish, a student he wasn't, Mark was a beautiful and loving brother and son. And then the deepest kind of love emerged when Mark used a line that only a guy with incredible charm could get away with when he saw that beautiful young woman at a prom, sauntered over and asked, "Do you play tennis? Do you know how good you have to be to pull a line like that off?" And that beautiful young woman named Lynn felt a spark. And that led to a date between this tall, charming man and the young woman in the powder blue V-neck cashmere sweater at Alice's restaurant, 1975. Little did they know, or maybe they did, that moment would lead to 4 decades of love tucked beneath the covers, and so many times when Mark would look at the kids and proclaim more than ask, "Doesn't your mother look beautiful?" There was laughter, a lot of it. It was like Seder every night at the Willliams house. The door was always open, family and friends of friends streaming through. Everyone feeling that beautiful present, cigar-smoking, sports-loving, classic rock jamming vibe that was all Mark. To be honest with you, Mark seemed to live the way I wish, and the way I think a lot of anxious, neurotic Jewish overachievers wish that they could live. I really do, but I can't. Mark had a very special gift for a life well lived. And what a gift that was to everyone. And he was solid. In a word, solid. Your world was safe because Mark was in it. He wasn't just a dad. He was your coach. He was your first responder, your friend, your tall, tan, bigger than life, but so very present road trip buddy and girl dad too, all rolled into one. He never missed a concert or a game or an event. And I want to say something to you, Marilyn and David. I know you were great parents. I know you were. Because you raised a guy like Mark who knew it was a father's job to honor the blueprint of his children, to enable them to become who they were meant to be and nothing but who they were meant to be. There is no greater gift a father can bestow upon his children than honor and unconditional love. Hillary, Brian, what a gift your dad was. And what a gift he will always be. I think you know I'm about 2.5 years ahead of you on this journey of burying a father. So I want to make you a promise. I promise you, and I promise all of you who love Mark, that you are going to discover him over and over and over and over again in so many new and beautiful ways as you carry him with you for the rest of your lives. There's a Hebrew word for funeral. It's a word a lot of Jews don't know. The word is livaya. It means to accompany. So today we accompany Mark to the next level of his existence. But of course, to accompany means also to be accompanied by. Which means that Mark is accompanying you too, right now. And he always will, in ways very, very beautiful and profound. That is my promise. And that's my prayer for you. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may that be God's will. Amen. We're going to hear now from some of those who knew and loved Mark best. We're going to begin first with Susan, then Brad, then Hillary and Adam, then Brian, and finally Doug.
Never in a million years did I think I'd be eulogizing Mark before I was old and gray. Well, I'm halfway there, I guess, so here I go. Mark may not have been my best friend, but he certainly was my first friend. From what Mom always told me, Mark was so excited when I came home from the hospital. He loved me immediately. He loved having a little sister, and I must say, I loved growing up with two big brothers. I always felt so proud of and protected by them. I have lots of memories from my childhood. I remember when we were little, if I'd get sick, I need a tissue. Thank you.
Just keep it on.
Okay. I remember when we were little, if we'd get sick, we'd both get to stay in Mom and Dad's bed and watch TV game shows. We would play Monopoly, and he always wanted to be the banker. And he tried to cheat and steal the money from the bank. But most times I'd catch him. And sometimes we'd even build a fort under the sheets and play the game. He and I loved playing together. I have memories of us playing bumper pool and basketball, tetherball in the backyard, handball in the front yard on the driveway against the garage, and combat with his little G.I. Joe figures. I don't recall him playing Barbie with me, but we definitely played G.I. Joe in the living room. We would line them all up, and then we would flick them with our little finger and kill them. After I got older and friends started coming over after school or on the weekends, Mark would like to hang out with us. He'd lie on my bed and want to know what the girls were talking about. Basically, he just wanted to be with us, and I liked that. He never minded when I hung out with him and his friends. I was like a little groupie to the band. I always wanted to sing with the band, but he never let me do that. And I'm not quite sure why, but he just didn't. I'd hang out outside when he and his friends were playing in the street and on the driveway, and he didn't seem to care. I don't ever recall him telling me to get lost or go inside. What a nice guy. He was always protective of me, always. His friends were never allowed to swear in front of me or tell an off-color joke. He would always say, "Come on, guys, my sister's here." I don't think I used a swear word or perhaps the F word until college. When he had parties after he moved out, sometimes he'd invite me and I'd go, and perhaps I'd drink a little too much. And he would have me lie down on the sofa for a while before I would drive home, and then I'd be given the direction to call him when I got home to let him know that I got home safely. So loving and so protective. We didn't talk much as we got older, but we were always there for each other. We always had the ability to make each other laugh with just a word, a phrase, a song. These last few years in particular, we spent a lot of time talking and a lot of time together. There was nothing left unsaid. He knew that I loved him, that I cared about him, and that I was always here for him. We were honest, and sometimes honesty is hard to hear, but that's how we were with each other. This is so unbelievable to know that we won't grow old together. Having him as an older brother was wonderful, and I will hold on to our memories forever. I will miss him, and I will love him always. I now have a letter written by our neighbor, Roger Karp, that was sent to Mom and Dad, and I'm going to read it. Dear Marilyn and David, I wanted to write to express my condolences on your recent loss. This is a sad time for everyone in your extended family, and Debbie and I share in your grief, while hoping wonderful memories of Mark will bring you comfort and meaning amid the sadness. May everything each of us who knew and respected Mark serve as a blessing for us now and in the years ahead. I am so glad you were able to take the memorable and meaningful family photos that grace the beautiful holiday card we received a couple of weeks ago. They will help us remember Mark's amazing smile and devotion to your family. My own memories of Mark date back so many years, really to the times in the 1960s, when he would join neighborhood kids as we played baseball outside, or he accompanied Doug when we traded baseball cards, competed in board games, or played with other toys. Mark was always fun to be with and carried himself well. I remember as well how friendly he was with everyone on Maybrook and seemed to be able to make friends with everyone. Over the past decades after I moved away, I would hear about Mark and Lynn and their children from my mother, the beach. I added that. She told me about attending family gatherings, especially weddings and bar and bat mitzvahs, and seeing and talking with Mark there. he would kindly ask about me and my kids while leaving my mother with impressions of how he matured and had grown stronger and more devoted to his family while maintaining the sense of humor and outgoing personality he had always characterized him. That had always characterized him. Those traits consistently reminded me of the two of you in your generous and caring ways. Mark combined the best qualities of both of you, being able to joke with others, yet always in a kind and sympathetic manner. He genuinely loved people and enjoyed the company of others, doing what he could to make people feel comfortable and at home when around him. Those wonderful traits will surely live on in Mark and Lynn's children. Mark seemed to have set an example for all of us on how to live with the right priorities, and he made devotion to his family and Jewish community uppermost. The way he conducted himself and cared about others will long inspire all of us fortunate enough to have known Mark while offering lessons in how to live a meaningful and productive life. As you probably know, I have taught 5th grade at my Reform synagogue for the past 30 years now. This year, due to the pandemic, I must do so virtually from home. This morning, as we do every week, our 90-minute class sessions began with services. The only time the rabbis let teachers and students unmute themselves during services is right before we recite Kaddish. They invite participants to share the name of someone who has recently died or whose name is being observed as a yortzeit. This morning was like virtually every other day here for the past 2 weeks. The sky was very cloudy and the feeling outside was gloomy. I said Mark's name aloud to the congregation. Right after I did so, the clouds parted for a moment or two, and the sun came out to brighten everything outside. Plainly, Mark is continuing to do so. Mark is continuing to teach us and find his own inspiration, his own unique ways of adding beauty, warmth, and meaning to our lives. Please accept our deepest sympathies at this sad time and share them with Lynn and her children, Doug and Felice and their children, and Susan, along with all the other members of your extended family. B'shalom, Roger and Debbie. Boo boo.
We're just going to change batteries really quickly so it won't go out on you. Batteries, please.
Thank you. Very, very difficult. Wow. As everyone knows, Mark had several best friends. I was just one of them. But I had an edge on all the others. Time. 56 years. It all started in 1964. I caught my first fish with Mark Willliams. 2 8-year-olds. Maybe Doug was with us. 3, 8, and 10-year-olds. In an 8-foot boat, floating in Balboa Bay. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, rigged up with all Dave's fancy fancy rods and reels. I couldn't put the bait on the hook. Mark had to do it for me. We'd never catch a fish. I don't even know if there are fishes in the bay. Hours. I had a lot of firsts with Mark. We were in Little League together with Doug. We had our bar mitzvahs. He went to Warner Avenue, I went to Roscommon Road, but we met up at Emerson, junior high school. I didn't get to go to Cotillion. One thing Mark had on me. That's why if you ever watched on the dance floor, he kicked my ass. We went to confirmation together. A bunch of boys, Cocky, Mark, Brad, John Kalick, John Winters. The theme of our confirmation was Mark's phrase. We met for, I don't know, the rabbi, Mark's next door neighbor, called the four of us in and said, "You four wild kids have to help me here. We need a theme for the year." And we sat through sessions and everybody said their thing. Mostly all the girls had their jingles. And Mark came up with even one friend can make a family. That was our theme. We went to University High together. Young, ignorant, cocky kids. Everything that we had in front of us was unbelievable. Julie asked me to pick one thing about uni. Those of you who have ever been at the school, there was a quad where everybody hung out in the mornings before school and between breaks. And one morning about 7:45, coming down the walkway was Marilyn and Dave with Mark next to them. What happened? Well, as the rabbi said, Mark wasn't known as the cum laude person in the class. And Spanish was not one of Mark's strong suits. I remember his name was Paco. And Mrs. Weiss asked Paco, "¿Cuál es tu cumpleaños?" And Mark said, "I have no idea." And unfortunately, maybe, Mrs. Weiss asked 2 or 3 more questions than Mark thought she should. Frustrated, Mark just said, "Why don't you just F off?" And there was Marilyn and Dave the next day coming down to meet with the teacher. Only Mark could pull it off. It was at uni that Marilyn and Dave were down in Newport one weekend and we were at their house and John Kalick and Mark convinced me, Boo Boo, to smoke pot. I didn't know what we were doing, but they certainly seemed to know what they were doing. Well, I didn't get high. I didn't know what was going on, so we got into the car and Brad drove. And we got down to Sunset and the red lights go off. Here I am. These 2 guys, they're in the back front, they're laughing hysterically. And it was only that I had something wrong with my license plate, but I almost peed in my pants. And Mark and John Kalick were laughing hysterically at me. We took a road trip. My first road trip was with Mark to Sun Valley. We went to see John. I had to come back after 2 days. I left my car there. We drove my car. And 3 days later, Mark and John called me hysterical and saying, Brad, we don't know why or what, but we were just sitting here watching TV, and this car came rolling down the road with no driver and just crashed your car. I never saw it again. Still in Sun Valley. I went off to college for 2 years in Santa Barbara, and Mark formed the APB fraternity. He lived on a street in West LA with, I think, Brad Levy and Richie Miller, and the APB was the all pro boogiers fraternity. Somehow, I remember 90% of the story, but Mark had to go some reason to the police station. And when he was at the police station, a guy walked up to him and said, hey, don't you live at such and such upstairs? And he said, yeah, why? He said, I live downstairs, and I want to know what's going on upstairs. Then we both, well, first Mark and Lynn got married, but then they had a party, and I met my beautiful wife of 38 years at their party. A 10. We started our families together with kids. I played golf with Mark probably more than most people or anyone else. I had grandkids. I sent pictures to Mark of every event of my 3 granddaughters. And he would write back, I'm so jealous. When do I get one? Until months ago when Hillary and Adam got pregnant and having their child. Here's some highlights for you. In the 70s, Saturdays, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, Doug and Mark would line their cars up in the driveway. Boo-Boo would be over with his car. Maybe we'd wash all 3. Maybe we'd wash 1, wax 1. Dave was tinkering in the house, in the garage. The refrigerator was full of cold drinks that everybody came running to and got. And if we were lucky, Martha made tuna fish sandwiches. We all know Mark was a connoisseur of cigars, tequila, ice cream, stereo or music or sound equipment. He loved the gadgets that went along with it. He loved the cigar cutters. He loved the thing to put the cigar on. He loved the ashtray. He had to have the glass. He had to have the best or newest stereo. Last week, Lynn and Brian and Adam and Hillary gave me Mark's ice cream spoon. And I have to tell you, it's the best ice cream spoon ever made. It's stiff, it's small, it scoops through hard. I bought a quart of Jamocha almond fudge in his honor. He had the happy glare. He was the light in the room. He made everyone laugh. Smile. Everyone wanted more of him. I've had dozens of calls and emails in the last 2 weeks, and everyone says the same thing. He was the nicest, happiest, funniest guy. He had rhythm. He had bounce. He was a dancing maniac. He knew the words to every song, or he faked it really well. He made great playlists with Brian. His joke telling, his straight face, his confidence, his laughter. He loved people. He was street smart. Such a quick wit. But I have to tell you, the most important thing to Mark was his family. All of you. He valued that over everything. Julie and I are so fortunate to have 3 beautiful granddaughters. As events happened, I'd send pictures to him, like I said. These past months, he would respond, "I'm getting one of those soon. I'm gonna have a little boy soon." And Hillary and Adam, I'm sure you'll look at your son's eyes the rest of his life and see your dad in those eyes. Mark, my friend, my brother, I will miss you so very, very much. You've made my life so much easier and fuller by being there for me and my family so many times, so many years. The good times, the bad times, a shot of tequila together, music in the background, a round of golf, the fun, the special birthdays, our family and our kids' special times together. All of those memories will never be forgotten, and they will never be replaced. Goodbye, my brother. I'll miss you more than you'll ever know.
I keep saying there are no words when there are really so many. Too many, in fact. There's actually too much to say about my father. There are the things you already know. He loved his family, he loved his friends, he was hilarious, soulful, caring, kind. But for those who really spent quality time with him, you know the feeling of being around Mark that was the most special. He made you feel seen, he made you feel present, he made you feel like your most authentic self. No judgments. And that's how I felt for 34 years. For 34 years, I felt nothing but love. What a way to live. What a way to feel, especially for a daughter. He championed my every move. Personal, professional, athletic, academic, my biggest cheerleader from day one. And not only mine, but anyone who surrounded me. My friends, my teachers, my colleagues, my client, my life partner. I knew he would always be on my side, but also let me pave my own path. He wasn't controlling, he let me fail. He let me learn. He never told me what to do or how to do it. He gave me the strength and confidence to figure it out on my own and know it would be okay. And even now that he's gone, which is truly unimaginable, I know that it will still be okay. He will continue to be by my side for it all. Over the past few days, I cried a lot. Certain things, especially music and certain songs, just broke me down. Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, Aretha, Earth, Wind and Fire, Steely Dan, Otis Redding. The lyrics, the soulfulness, the gift of music that my father introduced me to at a very young age just hit me hard. But when the tears stopped, even just for a short while, I found myself laughing, sometimes harder than I was crying. I laughed when thinking about my dad's big tan golf hands drumming on the steering wheel of his car, his smiling face full of teeth when we came down for breakfast every morning, his gear, pen and dental floss in the front pocket, lip balm in the back pocket, flashlights in every room in case of emergency, his special ice cream spoons, his green raincoat, his thick-soled rain boots for the 2 times a year it rains in Los Angeles, and his subsequent text after the first early morning drizzle. Quote, "LA may get a little rain today. Streets will be slick. Drive defensively." My memories are happy, in fact, not sad. They're perfect. In 8 weeks, our child is going to be here. A baby boy. When going through the countless emails and correspondence I had with my dad, I found a birthday note that he sent me last year. I've read it over and over and over and over again, not only because it makes me smile and remember my father, but it reminds me of the type of parent he was. He is the example of the parent I want to be, the person I want to be, especially to my son and my partner. His wishes or sentiments I will cherish forever. The note says, "Hillary, happy birthday to my lovely daughter. June 8th is a very special day because it is the day I first saw you. You have taught me so much about life and brought me tremendous joy. You are the best. I love you more than words can say. I look forward to watching and being a part of your life's journey and wish you the best of everything. Here's my wish for you. May every day be full of good health, happiness, love, friendship, harmony, laughter, rejoicing, and peace. Love, Dad." My father's death is tragic. It came too soon, out of nowhere, and like the rabbi says, it was like a rogue wave. It's sad, it's sudden, it makes no sense. Life brings pain, it will likely bring pain again. I can't control it, we can't control anything. But being present with the ones you love, telling them you love them, sharing memories of those you lost, and having faith. Faith in yourself, faith in others, faith in God, or whatever higher power gets you out of bed in the morning, helps me get through the darkness. My dad was the light, and I look for that light every single day as I continue to put one foot in front of the other.
As someone who's on deck to be a father myself, I found myself taking every opportunity to watch dads in action. Wonder what I could or should learn to be the kind of dad I wanted to be. Though I didn't have a great deal of time to observe Mark from this perspective, I'm so very thankful for the time I had up close. Yes, I learned what I needed to know about being a father, but believe it or not, I think Mark Willliams may have actually taught me the secret to life. Keep it simple. Mark kept it simple. And what I mean by that was it didn't take much to make him happy. He loved his paper, his ice cream, his sports, his music, and his family. And what I can report back is this. The house has been fully packed, the freezer is jammed, The paper was read every morning without fail. The lower half of Homewood Road could hear the drums every night at about 8:30. And the DVR was filled with every major televised sporting event of the last 2 years, and even some of the minor ones like the National Cornhole Championships. I truly believe like he felt like he had it all. We've all had our own standout moments with Mark, probably several of them, because Mark was a lot of different things to a lot of different people. He wasn't just some guy in a crowd, some guy who you'd pass on the street or someone who shopped at the same store. If you knew Mark, you knew Mark. All he needed was a moment or two to forge a lifelong connection and get you on his team. I'm very proud to say that my standout moment with Mark was very uniquely mine. After dating Hillary for 5+ years and going on numerous family vacations, I felt pretty good about my chances when I went to ask him for his permission to marry his daughter. But then I imagined Mark himself would probably say something like, "Buy an umbrella before it starts raining," or "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today." So just to be sure, I picked up a bottle of bourbon, some chocolate chip ice cream, and a banana cream pie on the way over. Needless to say, we had a great conversation that I will remember forever, and that one worked out. We're all going to miss Mark, but he's not leaving us empty-handed. Anyone who knew him is carrying around a little piece, and I believe a huge piece of him remains alive and well in Hillary. Anyone that has met her has very likely been bowled over by her warmth, her charisma, and her sense of humor, and anyone who knew Mark knows exactly where she got it from. Even though I wasn't around to observe, I can say with the utmost confidence that he was a phenomenal girl dad. And if we're ever lucky enough to have a daughter, Mark left a perfect blueprint for me to follow. The strength that I've witnessed firsthand from this family has blown me away. And it's a testament to the fact that Mark built them strong and was, in a way, always preparing them for life after Mark. It was just his style to make sure we all knew how to take care of ourselves, whether it be a text about driving carefully after the first rain, a directive to keep an array of strategically placed fire extinguishers around the house, or a reminder to check the batteries in all of our flashlights. Unfortunately, though, some things in your life you can never be prepared for. But still, it's clear to me that the only thing that was more important to Mark than his own preparation was that of his loved ones. And judging from what I've witnessed over the last 2 weeks, I would say he succeeded.
I've heard it said of parenting that your children won't listen to you, but they can't help but become you. So lead by example. Intentionally or not, this is what my dad did. He led by example. He didn't tell me how I should live or lay out any expectations of me. Instead, he shared his passion for life with me and what he believed was important. At the core, it was that life can be beautiful when you love and are curious about the world and the people in it. To me, this is what made my dad special. His ability, and I think a lot of people have talked about it, but his ability and desire to connect. I think that's why he played golf and music and coached our teams growing up and had all these hobbies. It's not as if he ever really excelled at them. I think he just liked to connect. Yes, with his friends and family, yes, with his broader community, but also with complete strangers. People he met briefly or in passing. People who he saw from time to time in very specific ways. For example, I think he got more joy out of talking to Lori and Usher at Staples Center than he did actually watching the Lakers games. Even when it came to playing the drums and jamming together, it was about the connection. He had something, a light that shot out of him, that allowed him to engage with anyone. and even a quick exchange, he could create a bond, a friendship. The latest one I learned about was with the FedEx guy, Raul, who was heartbroken when I told him about my dad's death. He said, "But we were just hanging out around Christmas. Your dad was such a cool dude." My dad could identify a quality in a person and shine a light on it, even if he was just meeting you for the first time. All of a sudden, you'd have an inside joke or a nickname with this man, and he'd remember it for years. Simply put, he made you feel good about being yourself. He wanted the real you, the imperfect you. He didn't want any posturing. He was the least pretentious person I know. Experiencing this as a kid was incredible and made me feel so secure with him. But I think only now am I starting to understand the enormity of this. If you're taught from a young age that it's possible and enjoyable to connect with all walks of life, that the world and the people in it are good and decent and willing to engage with you, then you'll never feel alone, because you can always connect. That was the gift he gave us. There are flashes of memory that keep coming to me since his death, mainly his physicality, his height, his big face, his big hands that he'd raise up and invite you to press your palm against, as if to say, "Look how big I am, you're safe with me." His dance moves, his jump shot, the way he looked at my sister and me growing up, the way he looked at my mom. He was a big 6'4", a big 6'4", but he used his bigness for good, never making anyone feel small. In fact, every day when he dropped me off at school, he'd say, "Be a leader out there." And this was a reminder to be big and to make others feel big too, to pull others up with you. I remember his different sides. He could be just as wise as he was funny, as playful as he was serious. I remember being 14 or 15 and being incredibly angry with him. I was alone in my room, stewing over something probably stupid that he said or did, and he came in with tears in his eyes, and he said, I never want anything to be left unsaid between us," and encouraged us to have an honest conversation to make amends. We both cried and talked it out, and that became our way. He had created a space for us to be transparent with each other, and we kept that up until the day he died. He influenced me and allowed me to influence him too. He taught me to take life seriously, but to not take myself too seriously, to lighten up, to get loose. He taught me to play music, especially with other people. He called it free therapy. He showed me what long-lasting friendship looks like, what a long-lasting marriage and love looks like, and what a long-lasting family looks like. A couple of months ago, we went on a walk and we had one of these vulnerable, open conversations. He said he'd been thinking a lot about his legacy. And he wasn't sure what it'd be, if he'd really done anything or would be leaving anything behind. I couldn't believe my ears. I did my best to assure him that he lived a beautiful life and that he impacted not only my life and the lives of his friends and family, but his entire community profoundly. I know he's somewhere right now seeing all this love, all the sadness too, the stories being told, the kind words being said, knowing that his life was truly a wonderful one and that his legacy is enormous. Death ends a life, not a relationship. I know he'll continue to live on in all of us and guide us towards each other. Thank you.
The sun is very warm. It's very nice. A wise man said to me once, What counts is what you do with your life during the dash, that time between birth and death. My brother was just 64 years of age when he died unexpectedly. A shock to all of us for sure. He was robbed of a longer dash by decades. And that's the tragedy of it all. He was excited and looking forward to his future and was planning his grandparent role. I am certain that he did not want to leave the way he did, not having a chance to say goodbye. Mark was a good man, an honest man, a good husband, a good father, a good uncle, a good son, a good friend, a good brother. He had a great sense of humor. He was lighthearted when he needed to be and tough-minded when he needed to be, but he favored being lighthearted. He had many tools in his personality toolbox. I greatly admired that about him because for many years of my life, I had just one, a hammer. And Mark gave me the gift of learning how to use other tools too. And that was a nice brotherly thing to do. We were not social friends so much, but we saw each other just about every day, other than those years when I was in the Bay Area in college and up until a few years ago. We agreed on most business ideas. We disagreed on destinations for philanthropic giving, but in general, we worked as teammates for over 35 years. He was the face of our company to the customers, and I was the inside man handling all the details. He always liked that arrangement. In the 1980s and early 1990s, we would both go to these networking group meetings, the breakfast and lunch, and some people thought we were one person. And that was fine with us as long as we won the business. And we did win more often than not. He loved golf, as you've heard, and for the past several years, we would play together with our father at the Jewish National Fund golf event. And it was very special. I know he liked it. 64 years ago, plus, Mark was born into the family only 20 months after me. Our childhood was good, was happy. We shared a bedroom for many years and shared a bunk bed at our Newport Beach trailer park home. We liked to tell stories, go fishing, as Bradley told you, and sailing and water skiing, and to play ball. He typically won a coin toss set up by my father to settle an argument. Like a typical middle child, he rarely took responsibility for the shit he pulled. In 1967, Mark really enjoyed striking me out at one of our competitive Little League games. I know Bradley was on that team. And he would tell people of that fact well into our 50s. He loved music and his band during middle school and high school. I recall we drove the family station wagon loaded with my stuff to Berkeley together when I transferred up there. He visited a few times, and those details of those visits are forever sealed in my memory for nobody else to know. He married the love of his life, and both were young in age then. They had over 40 years together. Lynn and Mark created a wonderful, wonderful family. He was proud of his children, Hillary and Brian, and boasted of their accomplishments often. He was your biggest fan, speaking to me often of what was going on. He loved you all so much. I was his best man, and he was mine. He and Lynn were honored to carry our Jessica in for her baby naming at our house in 1983. I'm grateful that our children are close with their first cousins. He was a fun and adoring uncle to my daughters. It was reciprocal. My memories are vivid, yet are too many to recall aloud right now. I know only good memories. The future looked very good for Mark. I was excited for him to be a grandfather. Yet I was concerned about his recent health and told him just a few weeks ago of my concerns because I was concerned. Very, very concerned. I saw him last on December 30th and talked to him on the phone the afternoon of January 6th, at which time he told me he was going in for an angiogram the next morning. That evening of the 6th, Felice and I raced to the hospital, but he was gone. A terrible shock transformed into instantaneous grief. Mark lived the way he wanted to live. His dash was cut short, but it is rich and full and a very impressive dash. It is just too soon and too painful to say goodbye. I will miss him. We will all miss him. He was a very special person. I loved him, and I'm proud that we were brothers.
Let's turn to page 18. And please rise for the Yomelei Rachamim prayer. Yomelei Rachamim shochein bam romim. Hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina im kidoshim o teorim kezahar ki amazirim. Et nishmat Mordechai ben David uMiriam shahalach le'olamo. Baal harachamim yastireu b'seita kanafav le'olamim. Vitzor b'tzor chaim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato. v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant complete rest in your sheltering presence to Mark, who has entered eternity. Master of motherly love, sheltered by your divine wings, may he be bound up in the bond of eternal life. The eternal God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. Amen. Please be seated. Everyone wearing a ribbon. Dave, stay up. Hillary? No, they didn't pin you?
Right here.
Oh, you got it, good, okay. Sure. You can stay as long as you want. Pages 31 and 32 for Kaddish, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach irute ve'amlich malchute. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imeru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu le'ela mi kol birchata v'shirata v'tush v'chata, v'nechemata, da'ameran be'alma v'imeru, amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imeru, amen. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom, aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imeru, amen. In just a moment, beginning kind of row by row, and then everyone else around who wishes to do so, you'll be invited forward to place some earth into the gravesite. This is a gesture of our love and our respect for Mark, and a final blanket that we cover him with. Reminder for everyone that we'll be saying Kaddish for Mark at every service for the next 30 days at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. It's online every Friday at 6, every Saturday morning at 10, and you're all invited to say Kaddish with us in those days and times for the next 30 days with Mark. You just go to the temple's website, and the service will be live streamed. For all of you at home, thank you for being a part of this today. And let's now allow the family to place earth. Okay, Lynn, let's go. Yeah, but the kids should come up with you.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Come on, Steffi. Where are you?
You're gonna go? Well, there's